Story 1. I lived one day at a time. I stopped aspiring to things in the future. I dropped my goals in life and tried to be in the moment. In the beginning, I just slept a lot. At some point, I didn't feel the need to sleep anymore except at night. I started to look at my job and I switched jobs. That made me feel a little better. I then started eating healthier. From then on, my hobbies finally felt fun again. It felt like a long time, but the moment I noticed I got out of my depression, which lasted at least 1.5 years, was when I suddenly felt a twinge of happiness in my body. It felt like I woke up from a dark dream, not so much a nightmare. It felt like the light went on. Everything suddenly appeared brighter. I smiled more and I got more smiles back. I started to chat again with complete strangers. I really went from darkness to light. The funny thing is, I still don't know how I got this depressed. Story 2. Accepting that depression is never fully defeated. I know that sounds contradictory, but in the darkest periods it has been really helpful to remind myself, you are just sick and you will start to feel better. Story 3. Getting into shape, quitting substance abuse, not totally abstaining from everything, do not get scared, I said abuse. Ridding my life of toxic people and relationships, including my own wife of 15 years, who was the root cause of most of my depression, as our relationship was the textbook definition of a trauma bond, then finally starting to live for myself. Story 4. You do not defeat depression. You manage it. This can be done through any combination of medication, therapy, having the right job, being around the right people, and finding fulfillment in your life. Story 5. Several things. 1. Medication. 2. Enough sleep. 3. Retiring from the working world. 4. Eating right and drinking water. 5. Cutting off toxic friends and family members. 6. My dogs. Avoiding alcohol. Therapy, of course. Story 6. Adequate sleep. 1 to 2 hours of yoga daily. Eating a healthy diet. Removing toxic people from your life. Avoiding junk food and sugar. Not worrying excessively about the future. Staying present because the present is the only real, tangible thing we can control. Spending more time with positive and emotionally healthy people. Limiting news consumption. Spending more time with pets. Reducing time on social media. Story 7. Various things helped me overcome my depression that lasted several years, but the most important was realizing that I could get better, and then deciding to get better no matter what I had to do. These things helped me with varying degrees of success. Meditation. This takes practice and can be frustrating at first. Keep at it, and you will be able to give yourself moments of peace. A few minutes break from the suffocation of depression is sometimes life-saving. Writing down my feelings and trying to figure out why I am feeling them. This helped me learn about myself, identify stressors, and determine what I needed to improve my mental health. Exercise. This is an easy thing to do since you can almost always do it every day, and it helps immediately. If you are depressed, it cannot make anything worse. Talking to people. This sometimes helps the most but could also backfire. People are unpredictable, but getting out there can help. Nutrition and sleep. These do much more than most people think. Eating healthy can be hard if you are poor, and getting sleep can be difficult for many, but try your best to eat a healthy diet and get 8 hours of sleep, 9 to 10 if you are female. Find a creative outlet. Whether it is drawing, writing, making video games, or singing in the shower, find something to get at least some of your thoughts out of your head. Working. Having a job and focusing on it will keep you distracted and make you money. Money cannot buy happiness, but it can buy a jet ski. This is a reference. Depression cannot be cured by jet skis, but seriously, it might help. Go on adventures. Even just going for a walk in your local park can help. Breathe fresh air. Enjoy nature. Move your body. Realize how small we are, and that we are just here to live. Seek professional help. This can be hard if you are under 18 or cannot afford it, but therapy can really help. You need to find a therapist who is good at their job and a good match for you, so do not give up after the first one. Most first therapies do not go well, but if you find a good therapist, they can absolutely change your life. Story 8. Talking about it and truly addressing the underlying issues. Then medication, exercise, additional therapy, and maintaining a compassionate relationship. Story 9. I am not sure that depression can ever really be defeated, but I did a psychedelic journey with a guide and it changed my life. Story 10. Sobriety. Times 1,000. No alcohol and especially no marijuana. I am grateful for 472 days sober. Edit. And making more money, which in turn happened because of my sobriety. Story 11. Started doing yoga, meditation, and exercise. Also reading, focusing more on positive things in life. It does take time. Story 12. I have battled depression 5 times. I have found that I have to force myself to exercise or get out of the house. If I need to find a fitness partner to rely on each other, I will. Sleep, seafood, and comedy shows help as well. Seeing a psychiatrist and a psychologist is also helpful. Story 13. Coping, honesty, reflection, integrity, surrender, acceptance, growth. Is depression ever really defeated? I do not know, but being genuinely grateful in life can significantly help. Story 14. For me, depression and substance abuse were closely linked in both the problem and the eventual solution. Getting sober was by far the most important thing. I was using various substances, most significantly cannabis and ketamine, to self-medicate. While they provided temporary relief, they worsened the problem over time. Once I was clean, I was able to move on from unhealthy relationships, form new healthy ones, improve sleep, diet, and exercise, and work with a psychiatrist to get my medications right without the confounding interference of other mind and mood-altering substances. 12-step recovery and individual therapy provided a helpful structure for addressing all of these issues with the support of others. Today, my depression is fully in remission. Story 15. Not recommending this to anybody, but my friend took me in for a month and a half for free. Everything was paid for. We spent the whole time together. We used a lot of mushrooms and ketamine and just talked. He helped me when I started spiraling, and we made plans for after my trip, both literally and figuratively, about how I would handle my spiraling thoughts. 3 years later, I am doing better, and that man will always be my family. Story 16. Therapy, music, volunteering once I could handle it, talking with friends, running, gardening. Story 17. I started antidepressants. They did not defeat depression for me. They created the space I needed from my depression to leverage my therapy learnings. You cannot medicate everything away. Story 18. If it is defeated, it is only temporary. You need to build healthy new habits to keep it at bay. You also need to pay close attention to how you feel every day. Depression can develop slowly, and you have to learn to recognize it and do what you have learned will work to chase it away again. It is a lifelong battle. For me, it is anyway. Also, antidepressants and a therapist. Both require work that is initially hard to do but worth it. Story 19. Improving sleep, finding opportunities to leave the home and socialize, discovering a new hobby, getting more sunlight, stopping drinking, and starting to eat better. For me, it is the ketogenic diet. Story 20. Transcranial magnetic stimulation. It was a lifesaver. I did 2 sets of 36 treatments. It is a commitment, but it is worth it. You can drive yourself to and from treatments. It grows new neurons. I used the brainwave system. Story 21. Ketamine and Wellbutrin. Before these medications, I didn't know what it felt like to walk through life without a constant feeling of existential emptiness. To be clear, these are not cure-alls, but ketamine really helped me see the bigger picture. Wellbutrin helped me feel energy and motivation. Somewhere in this journey, I stopped drinking. I think having to face being yourself all the time also helps. There is no escape or denial of your problems, so you can identify issues faster and address them more quickly. I also discovered that you don't have to listen to the voices in your head. Just because you hear them doesn't mean they are an accurate reflection of your mind. Much of it is conditioned by society, for example, judging someone who is overweight. You can also speak back, and at first it really feels awkward, but you have to build that muscle. I am still working on self-love and not putting myself down in every conversation. I know I will get depressed again, but it has become less painful, and I have learned how to cope. Knock on wood. Story 22. Cognitive behavioral therapy, meditation, mindfulness, and self-reflection. Learning who I was, what I wanted, and what I needed to let go of. The final and most difficult step was loving myself. I am not a religious person, but something I read just stuck with me. God told me to love my enemy, so I obeyed and loved myself. Story 23. People who say money cannot buy happiness have not been destitute for almost 40 years, ready to end their lives. As it turns out, my chronic depression had nothing to do with chemical imbalances in my brain. It was related to not being able to afford to live in a high cost of living area. I have been depression-free for 3 years. The new job is stressful, but the money keeps coming, and it is definitely less stressful than living paycheck to paycheck. Story 24. Eating a balanced diet and losing weight helped me overcome depression. I struggled with depression greatly until I had surgery and made many lifestyle changes. I still experience occasional sadness, but I no longer live in constant depression. Story 25. Psychedelics are not for everyone, but they have worked extremely well for me and have been even more effective for others. Make sure to do thorough research first, and I will be happy to answer any questions. Story 26. I won't say I defeated depression, but survival for me relies on positive self-talk. Every single time my brain betrays me and tries to tell me I am worthless, I have to remind myself consciously and deliberately that I do not lack value as a human, that I have worth, and making mistakes is okay and not the end of the world. Story 27. I literally transformed my entire lifelong depression when I finally listened to my therapist. I remember the day she told me that depression is a choice, and I never hated anyone more in my life. But over time, I realized it was completely true. The cognitive behavioral therapy triangle talks about how we have thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. You cannot control your thoughts and feelings for the most part, but you can control your behaviors. You cannot help feeling depressed or thinking depressed thoughts, but you can do opposite action and do the opposite of what you want to do as a depressed person. With depression, motivation follows action, not the other way around. When you're depressed and say, "I haven't cleaned in a while, I'll wait until I feel a little better," it is exactly like saying, "I'll wait to go to the gym until I have abs." The only way to beat depression is to do the opposite of what it asks of you. Truly life-changing. Story 28. It did not happen all at once. There were setbacks. But one day, I laughed at something and realized I had not in months. Story 29. Dialectical behavior therapy helped tremendously and helped with stopping prescription medications. It involved changing my daily routine and letting go of things that were actually doing more harm than good. Story 30. Ketamine and therapy. I did intravenous ketamine at a clinic and then later Spravato. That, combined with therapy, was literally life-saving. The ketamine was my last resort after struggling for a long time with constant suicidal ideation, anhedonia, and depression. It worked, and I am so much better now. Story 31. Realizing that it was not depression, but neurodivergent burnout, I rest more and am more aware of my sensory issues now. Story 32. Posted this in another thread. Reposting here because it's relevant. But caveat, there is no real defeating depression. It's like gravity. You always come down eventually. This just helped me stay on top of the cycle of depression, so that when I catch myself coming back down, I can get back up quicker. Here's my advice. Ignore what other people say or do if it isn't adding value or you don't find it useful and actionable in a real, tangible way. If it isn't useful, it's useless by definition. Don't waste time and energy on anything you can't use in your life. Get off social media. If you do this, you'll notice that a lot of people you are allowing to occupy space in your life will just disappear. Straight up. It will be lonely, but that's okay. If they can't be bothered to reach out to you, then they didn't belong in your life to begin with. Focus on the real relationships you have right in front of you and strengthen those rather than fixating on parasocial relationships. Lock in for 1 to 3 months. During that time, do all of the things you've probably already tried or been told to try. Go to the gym. This is especially important. Read self-help books. Take walks. Get outside. This is the most important step for me. Write every day. Catalog your thoughts. Brain dump every day. It doesn't have to be a conscious thing, but this is the key. Start out just writing your woe is me feelings. If you're feeling down, exorcise that. Write down your pain. Write down what's hurting you. Write how you're dissatisfied with life. When you're stuck in depression or on a negative train of thought, it is a waste of time and energy to try to force yourself out of it using false positivity, making a to-do list or goal list, or manifesting motivation. I've tried it. It doesn't work. It isn't sustainable. Instead, you need to get your negative thoughts on paper without the intention of forcing yourself in any direction that doesn't feel natural or instinctual. If your instinct is woe is me, then let your writing be woe is me. Write your thoughts without judgment or fear of judgment. Just let that negativity flow out of you. Then read them. Doing this, you will be able to plainly see all of the things that make you angry, upset, or dissatisfied laid out. After a few days, you'll notice patterns. Highlight them, take stock of them, organize them, put them into clear view, revisit them, let them anger you. Let the fact that these feelings control you anger you. Then go back to the gym or go on a walk or whatever and channel that anger into some kind of activity. Repeat this process for however long it takes. Allow yourself to get angry because anger and passion are energizing, but you need to make that anger productive. You need to direct it at something in order for it to be of any benefit. When you repeat this enough, you teach yourself the ability to leverage your negativity and channel it into something productive. Productive is positive. A daily discipline of fitness will make you both physically and mentally strong. Eventually, you will notice yourself feeling better, more energetic, happier, and generally more content with yourself. That's the foundation of confidence. This works because when you're depressed, down, or just sad, and you don't have a clear direction about what you want to work towards, then you need to paint an extremely clear picture of what you are working away from. Finding direction away from something is just as valid as having direction towards something. Then you will have enough mental space and clarity to start thinking about things like, what do I like? What am I interested in? What am I good at? What do I want? Eventually, inevitably, life will ebb and flow, and you will need to repeat this process. It isn't a straight line, it's a circle. And that circle always leads back to stasis in one way or another. You need to learn the practice of getting yourself out of stasis first before you can build momentum, and then momentum pulls you in the right direction. I hope this was helpful. Story 33. You do not defeat depression. You learn how to manage it. Stay busy with activities you enjoy. Avoid using your phone. Engage with your community. Spend time outside. Avoid alcohol, and be around friends. Story 34. I fought depression for more than 3 decades, and I can confidently say I have won a lasting victory. Surprising tools for me. When I am going through something hard and I know I need a lift to get through it, simply forcing myself to put on a little smile, even though it feels off, actually helps. There is science behind this. Just the act of smiling, even if you are not feeling it, can release dopamine. Analyze your sleep, food, and physical activity, and try over time to optimize each of these factors in your daily routine. They each impact you strongly when out of balance, so tuning them up can help a lot. Secure a therapist you can talk to about whatever you are working on in yourself. A person can only do so much on their own, but when you have a good specialist to help you, it can make a world of difference. Remember to take pride in what you have accomplished. Build a list of things you have done or are doing that you take pride in, and refer to it if you are feeling down. Even if we cannot feel awesome all the time, remembering what you take pride in can help counteract distress. Hope this helps. Story 35. Routine, positive routine. I work out every day, practice jiu-jitsu, and do something to exercise my brain, such as using language learning apps or reading. The activity increases endorphins. The learning gives me something to focus on and expands my horizons. It is all a distraction. When I have to deviate from my routine, I become irritable. Every day is a series of strategies to stay together. It is not perfect and has many flaws, but it is better than nothing. Story 36. Finding a way to stay positive as much as possible. realizing that I could not control what others think about or see in me. What matters is my own opinion. Learning to let go. I found that writing down what upset me and tearing it up as a symbolic act helped after doing it enough times. A big factor was getting help and not being afraid to ask for it. Lastly, it was hard, but cutting out negative influences and understanding that my feelings and thoughts do not need to be dictated by others was important. One more thing. Find reasons to laugh even at myself. Good luck to you. Story 37. I'm not really sure depression is something you beat. You learn to live with it and become better at dealing with it, but it is always there in the background. It is something that can be managed so it does not affect your life as significantly anymore. I think being realistic in your expectations is important, or you will be left wondering why it is back even though you thought you had beaten it. In reality, there are going to be ups and downs in living with a disorder. Story 38. Meditation is important to me. I know some people think it is nonsense, but they are wrong. Unfortunately, I have trouble sticking with it and keep having drinking issues every few months. Meditation is simple but annoyingly difficult to do correctly. Story 39. Doing something. I spent probably 3 years barely doing anything besides sleeping and doom scrolling the internet because I had no motivation or energy to do anything else. Eventually, a family friend offered me a job at the store he runs, basically just standing at a counter for 8 hours, helping maybe a dozen people a day. I took it more out of boredom than anything else. Just the act of getting out of my house, talking to the occasional person, and being somewhere different made the first cracks to help break out of the depressive slump I had dug into. This was not a magical saving grace. It still took several years for me to fully drag myself out of that mindset with the support of several good friends, but it was definitely a starting point, a place steady enough to actually try to improve from. Story 40. I needed supplements to get started. Ashwagandha, omega-3 fish oil, vitamins D3 and K2, and B-complex. Once that helped elevate my mood, my motivation returned, and I began going to the gym consistently while eating and sleeping better. Story 41. You never truly defeat depression, my friend. You just learn to live with it and how to deal with it when it gets bad. Eventually, you will notice the physiological, psychological, and emotional markers that indicate an oncoming episode. You can take necessary precautions such as letting those closest to you know if things get too bad, making plans to surround yourself with comforting things and engaging in your coziest pastimes, and being okay with canceling plans if you need to. Watch your diet, don't isolate yourself for too long, and you will be fine. Be honest with anyone who deserves to know, and remember that anyone who does not also does not deserve to know. You can fight this and survive it. I believe in you. Story 42. Went to the psychiatrist. Started medication. Got a cat. Cats and medication gave me the motivation to try new things and move my body without falling into darkness. It took 2 to 3 years, but I achieved small goals and fed myself regularly. Then I finally realized that everything is fleeting, so if I ever get depressed again, the fog will clear soon and I can get back to my routine. I just have to be patient. Story 43. Mine was 2 different events over a period of a few years. The first event was when I tried to hang myself, but the belt broke, and I woke up on the floor having urinated on myself. I realized the gravity of what I had just done, how it impacted my family when my cousin had hung himself, and how lucky I was that I picked a reversible belt. If I had used a regular belt, I would be dead right now. While that event did not make me less depressed, I have not had a single serious suicidal thought since. The second event was a few years later when I was feeling depressed around my birthday. I used to sell lysergic acid diethylamide, so I put some of one of the vials under my tongue and drove off to my favorite spot in nature. I got to my spot and waited for the acid to take effect, and when it did, I just sat there and thought for 8 hours straight. No walking around, no music, just sitting there looking out at the landscape with my thoughts. That event shifted my thinking, and I have not been that level of depressed since. Story 44. Diet and exercise are more powerful than any prescription. The changes are authentic and sustainable, but they do not generate profit, so you do not hear as much about them as you might hear about medications on television. Story 45. It comes and goes. I just try to maintain a healthy lifestyle, eat right, sleep well, and exercise. I know it will come back, but I also know that it will go away. Story 46. I have not beaten it, but it is a lot more manageable now than it was before. Honestly, what helps me is admitting that I am having a bad day and letting myself have a bad day, but reminding myself that tomorrow is going to be better. Story 47. Everyone has to find what works for them. If antidepressants work, great. If exercise works, wonderful. If a life change works, good. It is not the same for everyone. Some people do not defeat it but learn to manage it. I found dialectical behavior therapy to be a great tool in managing the anxiety that contributes to my depression. I have not defeated depression but have learned to live with it and manage it as best I can. Story 48. Acceptance and commitment therapy. It is not just about seeing a therapist but learning how to implement it and how to teach it. You cannot teach it without internalizing at least part of it. Story 49. I was never diagnosed, but I think I had it for a large part of my life. I would say good, and now I don't deal with it. Story 50. Keto. I had no idea how much my diet affected my brain, but as soon as I cut out the carbohydrates, I felt the anchor around my ankles go away. Story 51. Admitting that I have depression and that I need help creeps up sometimes, but I now know it will pass. Story 52. I was in a really bad place for a long time, and I just prayed and got close to the Heavenly Almighty Father. Thank you, God, for our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Much love, everyone, and take care. Story 53. Unsurprisingly, therapy and daily meditation helped me. I had tried fighting my way through in every other way imaginable. A year of dialectical behavior therapy and a few months of trauma therapy have brought me to the other side after being severely depressed for over a decade. I still use what I learned every day and continue to improve. It is a daily mental health hygiene mindset with the tools to make that real. Sincerest luck on your journey. Take the middle path. Story 54. I haven't defeated depression, but I've reduced it quite a bit. I've tried medications until I found the right ones, been in years of therapy until I found a good fit, couples counseling to help, transcranial magnetic stimulation, electroconvulsive therapy, and esketamine. Other than that, I've made small changes like improving my diet, starting to exercise, and learning to develop healthy relationships with friends and acquaintances. I've also helped my family increase their income. You just have to try different things until you find what works for you. It might take years, but there is always hope. I did extensive research into different treatments and what aspects of life influence happiness levels to figure out what I needed to do to fight my depression. And it is finally starting to work. Story 55. Time and God prevented me from doing something permanent. I was emotionally unbalanced due to puberty. I waited, and my feelings gradually improved about everything. Story 56. This may be unpopular, but if it helps even one person, that is what matters. What defeated my depression and anxiety and filled me with peace was Jesus. It may sound unbelievable, but it is true. If you are desperate, it is worth a try. Call out to him for help, and if he is real, you will receive an answer. Story 57. I lost my daughter a year and a half ago and suffered from a little depression, but I leaned on God and he pulled me through. Now I help others get through their losses. Story 58. Moving to a different country completely removed me from the situation I was in. I found new hobbies that are outdoors and encouraged me to get out and be active. It essentially broke all my old habits and helped me build new ones. Story 59. Meditation. Observe what you feel, think, see, hear, or simply watch your breath, knowing there is nothing more important than the present moment. Most problems actually come from your thoughts. The creativity of the mind is sometimes overwhelming. Story 60. Mine was not bad, but it is a slippery slope, and once diagnosed, it was hard to accept. The first thing that helped me was seeing a video on TikTok that explained the main character in the movie Limitless. His first action when he became super smart was to clean and organize his belongings. They then explained why a smart, healthy person would do this. It removes distracting clutter and opens up energy. That day, I sat at my workbench and organized screws. Then I moved on to organize something else the next day and every day after. The control it gave me has been priceless. Plus, it is a great reminder. Every time I need a random screw, I pull out that box and remember this is when I took control. I also got help and was on medication for a while. But this was the first thing that I felt truly moved me. Story 61. I was intentional about changing my situation. I surrounded myself with better people. I drank less alcohol and used fewer drugs. I spent more time in the sun. I spent more time alone, trying to get to know myself and understand what I needed. Story 62. After trying nearly every medication and experiencing daily suicidal thoughts, 6 weeks of electroconvulsive therapy every other day helped me. It has been over 2 years, and I am still adjusting to not battling my own mind every day. Story 63. I gave my life to God. It was a remarkable experience, but in the snap of a finger, He healed me of my depression and anxiety that I had dealt with for over a decade. My life has only improved since that day. Story 64. It was God who saved me when I was deep in depression and despair, and nothing else could help. I reached out to the only one who could. Story 65. I stopped listening to music that was triggering my post-traumatic stress disorder. I was also very fortunate to be able to change my surroundings. Go to the gym and work through your feelings about the past there. Story 66. I haven't defeated it, but I have maintained it with proper medication. It has taken a long time to find the right medicine, but I am in a good place right now. Story 67. First, I went no contact with my difficult family for 5 years. Second, I received a driving under the influence charge, went to treatment, and quit drinking. Third, I began therapy. Fourth, I completed dialectical behavior therapy. Fifth, I set firm boundaries and made it clear that if my family wants to have a relationship with me, they must treat me with respect. If not, I will not attend their deathbed or funeral. It was hard, but it worked, and I am happier than ever. I have put that dysfunction to rest forever. They know I will cut them out of my life with no regrets if they ever mistreat me again. It has worked wonders. Story 68. If you have significant inherited depression, in my experience, the only effective treatment is finding the right antidepressant. Story 69. This is just my personal experience, but you never actually defeat depression. You just learn coping mechanisms and ways to manage it. Story 70. Stopped birth control and lived more in alignment with my core values of life: positive self-talk and Jesus. Story 71. This is going to get me criticized on Reddit, but it is true, and if it helps anyone, then I do not care. Honestly, reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius changed my life and was the start of me clawing my way out of the hole. Story 72. I don't know that you ever really defeat depression. I think you keep it at bay one moment at a time and hope that those moments connect for as long as possible. Story 73. Going outside and seeing nature. Then I met God, Jesus Christ, and the Bible changed my life. I try to respect myself as I would respect someone else, and that helps me get up early at a normal time, brush my teeth, and do the normal things. Story 74. Animals. I knew I needed to care for my animals. If I did not get up and clean my horses' stalls, feed them and my cats, no one would do it, and I could not let them suffer because of me. Story 75. Psychedelics, mantras, meditation, moving my body, avoiding almost all media as if my life depended on it, and turning off every single notification on my phone. Story 76. Ketamine intravenous therapy, ayahuasca, and 5-methoxy-N, N-dimethyltryptamine, as well as talk and somatic therapy to integrate those experiences. I used to be suicidal. I have not had a thought like that in a long time. Happy to provide more information if you would like. Story 77. Spending more time talking to and listening to Jesus Christ. He completely cured me of depression and anxiety. Story 78. My war orphan father would always say, "Just feel yourself happy," and it would upset me so much. As an adult, however, he was quietly right. I got out of my difficult situation, received medical treatment, found better habits and people, but I was still miserable. Turns out, I have to actively practice choosing happiness every day. Story 79. Nothing worked until I started antidepressants. They completely changed my life. I struggled for 20 years until I began antidepressants at age 41. Story 80. Walking with my dog until I was comfortable jogging every now and then. I lost weight and stayed committed to my goals week by week. I completed 6 half marathons and graduated from graduate school. My dog was a huge part of my success. Story 81. The medication gabapentin, which besides directly helping to alleviate my depression, also helped me quit drinking, which in turn helped alleviate it even more. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.